Every once in a while, MMA fans start buzzing about a matchup so big, so loaded with storylines, that it feels less like a fight and more like a moment in history. Right now, that fight, the one everyone's obsessed with, is Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Two champions, two divisions, two completely different styles colliding in a potential super fight that could redefine the UFC landscape. But like all great rivalries, there are layers here. There's timing, weight, legacy, and the risk of this fight slipping away before it even happens.
Another massive fight would be Ilia versus Islam too.
Of course.
Yeah.
But Salim is obsessed with that fight.
Oh, really?
He's obsessed with it. And I tell him, I'm like, but they both got to win more fights in their division first, right? That's kind of how you do it, right? When it's like they both run through their division, and then it's like you're in the position where it's like, I got to make this. That's what happened with Volk Islam, right?
Well,
that's Dana White reminding everyone, super fights don't just appear out of thin air. Both men need to handle business first. But the obsession is real, and Islam himself has now fueled the fire by saying this is a fight that excites him. Ilia Topuria's rise has been nothing short of meteoric. The undefeated Georgian-Spanish star shocked the MMA world when he dethroned Alexander Volkanovski, a man many considered the greatest featherweight of all time. He didn't just edge out a win, he made Volk look human, using surgical striking, impeccable timing, and unshakable composure. That win turned Topuria into a superstar overnight. Suddenly, he wasn't just the featherweight champ, he was a name fans demanded in crossover fights. Islam Makhachev, on the other hand, represents a dynasty. As Khabib Nurmagomedov's protégé, he carried the weight of Dagestan on his shoulders. Many doubted if anyone could truly follow Khabib's legacy. But Islam has delivered, capturing the lightweight title, defending it in wars against Volkanovski, and cementing his status as one of the most dominant grapplers the sport has ever seen. Where Ilia is precise and explosive, Islam is relentless and smothering. So when Islam admitted at the Eagle FC press conference that the idea of fighting Ilia excites him, it sent shockwaves through the MMA world.
Твой следующий бой после Мадалены пройдет в 77?
Не могу сказать точно. Есть Топурия какая-то интрига. Мне самому тоже интересен этот бой. Может получится сделать какой-то супербой. Или, как я сказал, посмотрим по весу.
That statement wasn't casual, it was calculated. Islam knows what's at stake, a champion versus champion showdown that would go down as one of the biggest fights in UFC history. But there's a catch. Wait. Islam has revealed that he now feels at home at welterweight. He's walking around at 189 pounds, sparring naturally with 170-pounders, and says this is the range where he feels strongest.
You know, up until last camp, I think my weight was about 83, 84. But now with the right regimen, with the right diet, my weight is now 86.5. Yesterday was 86.5. I think right now I'm where I need to be. I'm at the right weight. I'm at the place where I feel comfortable with working out, sparring, and working with the guys that usually fight at 77. To continue to gain the weight from now on is not necessarily the goal of mine. I mean, it might go up by 1 or 2 kgs in training still, but we've already done plenty of work during this camp with heavyweights to make sure to gain the proper weight that we need.
He admitted that cutting down to 155 has always been brutal, and going back might not even be realistic if his body continues to grow into the welterweight frame. Fighters who move up rarely come back down, and Topuria knows it.
He couldn't come back down to 155.
Once you try to go up, you never want to come back.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's hell, right?
It's hell.
Yeah.
It's hell. I had to go through hell.
Ilia himself has lived that nightmare. He nearly destroyed his body making featherweight. Now at lightweight, he says the difference feels like heaven versus hell. And if Islam is serious about staying at 170, Ilia believes he'll never return to lightweight, which means if this fight happens, it might need to happen at welterweight. Meanwhile, Arman Tsarukyan isn't happy with Ilia being pushed toward a super fight. He insists that Ilia has unfinished business at lightweight, namely fighting him.
If he beat me, he's gonna be on the same level as Islam. He gotta beat like someone like me, you know, who can wrestle. He just had easy fights on his career, you know. He beat legit fighters, but not on their prime. If he met Volkanovski 4 years ago, Volkanovski just eat him.
Arman has a point. He's the #1 contender, young, hungry, and stylistically one of the worst matchups for Ilia. Even Islam admitted Arman has the tools to beat Topuria if he approaches it the right way.
На твой взгляд, сейчас справедливый бой за чемпионство в легком весе между кем? Между Ильей Топурией и Арманом Царукяном?
Ну да, конечно. Если кто-то когда-то, не знаю, в истории страховал бой, делал вес, он всегда дрался почти. Ну, я не помню в истории, чтобы не давали бой. Арман сделал последний турнир вес, подстраховал бой, и я думаю, он должен быть следующий. Он доказал, что у него же была проблема с весогонкой, он доказал, что может спускаться, гонять вес, и я думаю, что это самый актуальный бой на данный момент.
У кого было бы больше всего шансов на победу?
Ну, я думаю, если честно, если Арман выйдет с правильным настроем, то он справится.
Charles Oliveira, the former champ, agrees. He says Arman deserves the next shot. Add to that Khamzat Chimaev training alongside Arman and hyping him up in brutal gym sessions, and suddenly, Ilia's road to Islam doesn't look so straightforward.
400, coach. He's only keeping on 400. Only 400? Yeah. Smart boy. Bro. Smart boy, coach. Here, how to make records to be a smart. In the cage, you can be smart. But here, bro.
Carter's only doing 200. What's wrong with your friend here? He's only doing 200.
Give me music from.
Carter, you stepping on me? Let's go. That's your 2 minutes? Right there. Right there, 2 minutes.
And then came Chael Sonnen. Always one to stir the pot, Sonnen claimed with certainty that the UFC is already working on Ilia versus Arman. He even compared Ilia's behavior to Anderson Silva's old promotional tactics: first deny a fight, then accept it, then let rumors of an injury swirl, before finally stepping in. If Chael's right, Ilia won't see Islam anytime soon. Instead, he'll have to go through Arman first. That's where the tension lies. On one hand, you have the massive payday and historic implications of Islam versus Ilia. On the other, you have contenders like Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje, who many argue have earned their spot. Michael Bisping recently laid it out bluntly: the UFC cannot afford to risk losing Ilia versus Islam by booking too many dangerous fights beforehand.
Ilia is special. I'm not saying that he's not. But if he lost to them, there's a massive market opportunity lost there, because Ilia versus Islam, Ilia with the rise, Ilia still being in a lot of people's minds the featherweight champion against the lightweight champion, there's something there. And yeah, if he loses to Gaethje but then 2-3 fights later gets a shot, it's not quite the same sell. The public wouldn't be quite as still invested. So I think they're going to give him the title fight. I think Islam's going to take.
But others see danger in rushing. Michael Chandler respects Ilia's striking but says if the fight drags into deep waters, Islam's size and experience drown him. Curtis Blades agrees if Islam gets the takedown, it's game over. Yet Joshua Van, a rising flyweight, boldly picked Ilia to shock the world, saying his striking could be the kryptonite to Islam's suffocating style. This is what makes the matchup so compelling. Islam is the immovable force of Dagestani wrestling. Ilia is the precision striker with ice in his veins. It's classic pressure versus patience, dominance versus disruption. If Islam wins, he becomes not just a two-division champion but arguably the most complete fighter of this generation. If Ilia wins, his meteoric rise goes from superstar to legend overnight, becoming one of the fastest rising pound-for-pound kings we've ever seen. And make no mistake, Dana White knows the stakes. This is the kind of fight that sells out arenas, dominates pay-per-view buys, and cements legacies. But the timing has to be perfect. History tells us these super fights slip away more often than they land. Anderson versus GSP? Never happened. Khabib versus Tony? Fell apart again and again. The UFC cannot let Ilia versus Islam become another what if. So here's the real question. Do they make it now, risking everything? Or do they let the divisions play out and hope both men stay undefeated long enough to meet? Because if there's one thing fight fans know, it only takes one bad night to derail history. So I'll leave it to you. If Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria meet in the octagon, who walks away with gold, and who walks away with shattered dreams? Let me know in the comments, because this one could divide the fight world like no other.